Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 94 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, December 10th, 2023. We got, what about two or three more shows probably left this year? Probably two, right? Yeah. We are in full swing.
Show.
Full swing of the basketball season. And in fact, Mike just got finished with the last meeting of the Christmas tournament, Christmas Classic seating meeting. They have figured it out. We know who's going to play who in the opening rounds, and we'll get to be the first people to share that information with you. So
the 7 people that follow us religiously will get to know this.
That's right. They are those are lucky folks. It took almost 2 minutes for my son. Seriously, go. I'll tell you what, this place is a madhouse.
Well, I've had cats all over my table while we were seating, so we'll see how it goes.
All right. So I think, okay. Sorry about that. Hopefully that's the last time. So I think we'll save that for last, though. So
that's fair.
We'll talk about a week.
Milk those listeners, Whitey. Milk those
listeners. Right. That's right. That's a little tease. You know, you got to stick around to the very end to hear that, or skip to the last 10 minutes.
Fast forward.
But we don't recommend that because we've got things to say. Everybody in our area played some games this week, and I was at a few of them. And as usual, I don't really have any real strong feelings about where we start.
I was actually at a game, Whitey.
Well, let's start there then. What game did you go to?
I went to T-town homecoming game.
Okay, so Friday night against.
See, when you're married to a former homecoming queen,
yes, you
have to make an appearance. She walks out of the house doing this, practicing her queen wave in case anybody yells at her.
I think this is just your way of crowbarring in that you're married to a former homecoming queen. But
I did, as they say in the business, I outkicked my coverage.
The Shoes had a good week. They took care of business against Paris on Tuesday, beat them by 34 points, and then Bloomington Central Catholic comes in and T-town beats them 54-41. I don't know. Tell me what your takeaways were specifically.
Well, Central Catholic's best player, the Surrey kid, he transferred to IMG or ING, which is it?
ING, yes.
Yeah, ING Academy. I guess I can't put 2 and 2 together. He's already signed his letter of intent to go to Notre Dame. Pretty good school. Play basketball in the ACC. Miss your senior year, you get second in state. Miss your senior year. I don't know. I mean, how are you going to get more exposure? You already got your. I mean, are you going to try to have somebody bigger take Notre Dame's spot? I don't know.
But I guess their Bloomington Central Catholic's loss is T-town's gain, I suppose. It makes a difference in a game like that. But I guess you want to play. If you're T-town, you schedule a school like BCC because you want to see that kind of talent.
Well, you went to Bloomington last year and beat them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was talk of a possible rematch for the state championship until Paul Prep said no. So, Shoes got off 15-0 first quarter.
Yeah.
They were getting some looks. Central got looks, but never, I was impressed T-town defensively. Central had to work for every shot they got. They got some open looks that they missed, but you're not going to make every open look. So, and T-town offensively got looks, and first bucket they hit was Garrett Gaddis hit a 3, which got them off to a pretty good start. and they're up 15-0 in the quarter. Second quarter, T-town scored first 4 points. It was 19-0, and it was like 5:59 when Central finally hit a shot. So there was 19-0 lead. Game was physical. I mean, physical. It was third quarter. Kid from Central got caught up in traffic and fouled Garrett Gaddis in the lane. I remember it was a loose ball, trying to knock a pass away, something. And then proceeded to do the old Dusty Rhodes elbow in the middle of the forehead to him. I mean, I thought I was like 20 years old watching the old Dusty Rhodes video. Right in the middle of the forehead. And Bob Schlechte, bam, banged him with a tee. Deservedly.
Sure.
Kid said something to Bob, and Bob's back was to me. But just from his body language, he may have thought about banging him again and didn't. Okay. So, kid goes to the bench. Not a single coach says a word to him when he gets to the bench. Nobody.
No.
Hey, hey, dumbass. Yeah, it was a foul, but you can't throw an elbow in the middle of the head. Like, bang. This is what he did. I mean, it was like he was trying to get a ball, and then he just took another step and hit Gaddis in the middle of the head. Nobody said a word to him. The kid kind of keeps looking at Bob all the time, which, I know Bob Schlechte, friend of the show. We've had him on as a guest.
Yes.
Eventually, this kid gets back in the game for about 6 seconds. And I didn't see the call from where I was. It was on an inbounds play. Wally Pipp, Morgan Wilson said it didn't look to be a lot of contact, but bang, foul number 5. And this young man's done. Then he gets handshakes coming to the bench. Again, I don't know. I've had it as a coach. I've seen kids do stupid stuff, and either you talk to them. Usually, you have an assistant talk to them, because, in my case, if it was stupid like that technical he got, I probably would have, kind of got off on him a little bit, and then I would have been out of focus and coaching for about 4 minutes. So usually you hand that off to an assistant, who will at least talk to the young man and say, hey, you can't do that. But that didn't happen. Left at the end of the third quarter. I mean, it was getting chippy. At one point, a Central kid kind of collapsed on the floor, and their fans were getting excited. Their students were getting excited. The kid was cramping up. I'm not so sure Ken Crawford didn't set the thermostat. It was a little warm in there. Buddy. I know it's hard to believe. Hard to believe.
Small aside, I was at Neoga's homecoming that night, and I told Neoga's athletic director I was sitting with Mike Taylor that night, and I said, Ken Crawford would have been proud of how this gym is tonight. I don't think Neoga did that on purpose. It was packed.
It was one of those nights that was kind of 50 degrees during the day, and then it cooled off a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know. And then a Central fan came walk by me. I was standing, I don't like sitting. Then he stood. I was kind of in the doorway. Under what doorway would I have been? On the southwest door there, And he says, do you guys always hire these officials? And I don't know. I wasn't in a very good mood. I was a little hot, a little irritable from watching, kind of chippy play. And I said, sir, I have nothing to do with this game or this school, which I guess I kind of lied since I am a golf coach. And I said, these are state tournament officials out here, which I know Schlechte's worked the state, Steve DeClerc's worked the state. I wasn't sure about their partner, but it just sounded good. And then I bit my tongue in half because I wanted to say, I've been to Bloomington and I've seen the officials that work your games, but I didn't go there. Yeah. So I was just irritable. I mean, stupidity makes me irritable. Did some calls go T-town's way at times? Sure. Usually it was the case where the second person was getting caught, which happens everywhere. But I don't think the fouls were overly lopsided. So I don't know. But they played well. I feel like this T-town team right now, their biggest problem is going to be when they get a team down 10, 12, 14 points, is in getting it to 22, 24, starting to step on them a little bit, step on their throat a little bit. And I don't mean literally, but I feel like offensively, they struggle at doing that. But on the flip side, they get you down 12 with the way they guard you. That can be 20. They're going to be defensively, they're doing some things. I saw them do. Chet's done a little run and jump in the past, kind of run and trap from the blind side. And I actually saw them then spring a guy and intercept that kind of reversal pass when they get scared and then trap, which usually they don't do. They did that at least once, maybe twice. So I like that. But like I said, defensively, you still see guys sometimes, there's just a hesitancy about taking the shot.
Yes.
And you got to. If you're wide open as a high school player, again, situation dictates it. If it's inside 30 seconds and a 5-point lead, no, you don't take the wide open. However, there are times because when they know you won't, they're not going to exactly pressure to get you, to guard you. And the other time when you go to the hole and all you do is then drive a dish, there's not going to be any help. They're not going to have 2 or 3 guys coming to contest you. So they've got to work through some of it. So that's just confidence in kids. And I think they'll get there. But I'd seen them on Facebook broadcast down in Lawrenceville, but seeing them in person, I mean, I felt defensively they did a pretty good job. They had some kids hit some shots early, but I just think that's going to be their biggest Achilles right now, is being able to score.
Yeah,
because that puts a lot of pressure in your defense to hold somebody to 36 points every night. And they're good defensively, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I was a coach that liked margin for error. I wanted to score 70, so if we made mistakes, I had a little leeway.
Yeah. Garrett Gaddis, 15 points. Joey Nieberge had 12. Tyler Prummer, 10 points, 9 rebounds. I think so Garrett is accepting his role as the guy very well. And I think that
I agree.
I think that Joey Nieberge is doing a pretty good job of being the secondary option from what I have seen, and I haven't seen a lot. Don't mistake this for me pretending like I know everything about this team. But I think
Joey had a block. Kid kind of got a little bit of transition, not really. I was standing. Terry Brown was sitting by me. He's, I think he had surgery or something. He was on one of those scooters. Not a very big scooter for him, by the way. And we both thought it was a goaltend. But then I had Hall of Famer Bob Zeruzen and his little snot-nosed son, Chrissy Zeruzen, telling me, no, they thought it was a clean block. So we weren't sure. I mean, that's 4 people who have an idea of the game, other end of the court. We weren't sure. So that tells you how the officials, when it's a close call like that, it's a tough one. They called it a clean block.
Well, it's just a lot of times it's just where they are and how.
Yeah, it's their angle.
Yeah.
But
what I was kind of getting to there was that last year Garrett did a really good job of when some of the primary scoring options were being taken away, he was able to take advantage of that situation and have a nice game. He was
kind of Vinnie Johnson. He was the microwave. He could come in and get it going.
And that's where you're still trying to, you still need to find somebody who is able to accept that role this time around, right? Like, because
right now I don't mean this negatively towards kids, I don't see that person right now yet. Are there some candidates? Sure, there are.
Yeah.
Um, you just got to find some kids who are going to be, and they could be kids who are starting, kids coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to find somebody who's going to get that shooter's confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And
It is
I've heard,
confidence,
oh,
right?
so and so makes a lot of shots in practice. Hey, great. I can go out and make them in my driveway right now too. That don't count. You got to make them in the game. And until they've got a kid or two who can come in and hit back-to-back buckets, I feel. And we always say threes, doesn't have to be threes. Those are nice, but that's got to happen.
Yeah, but the good news is, they get a couple of wins this week.
Yeah.
They're 5-2. They're trending in the right direction. They go to Effingham Tuesday. They go to Columbia on Saturday. Do we know
That's
anything
Green.
about,
They play Greenville at Columbia.
is that what it is? It's a
No, I'm
shootout.
sorry. They play Columbia at Greenville. I said that completely backwards. You want to
Okay,
know what
that's what I
Columbia's
thought.
record is?
Columbia,
Hang
five,
on.
5-2.
I can tell you right now.
Okay.
Let me find it. Oh, I closed it. I'll find it here in a minute. During our seating meeting, I had Aaron Britton's very handy spreadsheet open during our seating meeting because that's where I get my results.
Yeah.
I used to go to about 8 different places. Now I just use Aaron's website.
Columbia just their latest game was against Salem, and they beat Salem by 4 points in a 44-40 final, which that's not a lot of points. I don't know what kind of game that was, if that's a defensive battle or if that's a can't hit shots type of game. But I don't know, they it seems like they play some pretty big schools. They beat Nashville 39-33. They beat Mater Dei by 11. They beat Christ Our Rock Lutheran this year, but they lost to Westland, lost to Triad by a point, 41-40. So I'm noticing a trend. A lot of games in the 40s for them. If they get to 50, 60 points, they're going to win it. But
Right.
I don't know. That's about it. I can't speak intelligently, but it seems like it ought to be a nice challenge just on the face of it.
They're 3A, aren't they?
Boy, you're asking me questions. You're asking me questions.
No, I think they're 2A. I'm looking.
Columbia IHSA. I searched it on IHSA, and they have an enrollment of 618, which would boy, that'd be.
Did I miss them in 3A, or are they ranked?
Anyway,
Hang on. They're 18 in Aaron Britton's poll.
in class 3A?
Plus 2A.
2A. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna
plus
say
2A.
618. Yeah. So that'll be a good week for
T-town's not ranked anymore, by the way. They
No.
fell out of the rankings with those 2 losses at Lawrenceville and the loss to Tolono.
Well, they've got that, and then they go to Mount Vernon the following week, and then the Christmas tournament. So that's what they've got on the schedule. I think going to Mount Vernon is going to be, that's going to be a good battle. Mount Vernon had its way with Effingham, and I get that it's a challenging year for Effingham, and I'm not trying to make that comparison. I'm just saying that I think they're pretty good. I mean, Mount Vernon usually is, right? They're usually tough to deal with, if nothing else. Yeah, so that's T-town. T-town's girls, we'll just stay with them. Why not? We'll stay with that school. They beat Pana rather handily on Monday. We talked about that last week. The Pana is way down.
Right. Payne graduated, I think, just 4 of their starters from last year, maybe.
And then they beat St. Joseph Ogden 59-50 on Thursday. So they got a couple of wins. They're up to 5-3. And
yeah. Everybody's saying how woe is me, poor T-town. They're 5-3, and one of their losses are to Breeze Mater Dei and a 6-6 girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and they also, I mean, they lost to a pretty good Mount Vernon girls team too. 1 second.
Right.
And so, yeah, I wasn't panicking on them just yet. I wanted to see how some people started to fill up in the box score a little bit. And you've seen some good numbers. Malia Helmink has really started to put up some numbers the last few weeks. They beat Benton a couple weeks ago. She scored 17 in that game, and then she scored 11 against Olney, 14 against Pana. She had 8 in that win over St. Joseph Ogden, but she didn't need to score a bunch in that game because Chloe Prupp scored 20 in that, and she's averaging 13 a game. She's been pretty consistently the leading scorer for T-Town, but Molly Ruhal's had a couple of back-to-back double-digit games. Anna Prupst has had double digits in 3 of the last 4 games, and that's kind of what we talked about, right? Was that they needed to. I mean, the same as what we're talking about with the boys a little bit. You need to find
They
some
just
other
got to
people.
find kids who can score.
Yeah.
It's good to see when I look and see Molly Ruhal score 12 points and hit 1 3. She was kind of exclusively a 3-point shooter last year.
Mhm.
So, that's good to see. And Lori mentioned that in her show, how the girls have she's challenged them to not be one dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden they've got Helmink, Anna Prupst, Molly Ruhal, all of them averaging between 7 and 8 points a game, and then Chloe Prupst at 13. So, that's the kind of thing where if you can get 2 or 3 more weeks down the season trail, and those numbers are still looking kind of like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, that's going to make you a pretty tough team to deal with because
yeah, no, I agree. And and that's good. I mean, I know they've got some things leading up to the Mattoon tournament. So
they've got this week they got Newton coming in Thursday. That appears to be it, and then they go to Paris the following week. So their
that's
next
2 good ball games.
Yeah, I mean that's at Paris too. I don't know how much of a home court advantage they have, but it's the trip, right? Like, I mean, it's a trip and they're good. So
What night is it you and I get to do the Effingham T-Town girls, Whitey?
Effingham T-Town girls.
And
Oh,
that's always during the NTC tournament, isn't it?
NTC tournament. Yeah, that's right.
So they send the A team to cover that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I've heard some talk that they might have a Hall of Famer on that one. Not a blood
Oh,
of yours, but
what's that?
A different Hall of Famer who's
Okay.
he
Hey,
he might be doing that one. I don't know. We'll see.
Whitey people are lining up to work with
Yeah, Greg and I are going to have to fight over the honors to.
I think the conversation is who gets stuck.
All I said was, I mean, if I'm going to do this, I wouldn't mind having the opportunity to be at the NTC every night like they do, right? Like that's kind of an
I
experience.
understand you don't. I understand you don't want to work with me.
I mean, that's really what it is, but I got to put a good face on it.
Yeah,
So,
well, I understand.
hey, I'll shift gears real quick to I'm not gonna I was at Effingham's boys had a tough week this week. They got beat 3 times, a couple of conference games. I was at the one Tuesday at Mattoon. Mattoon got them 71-46. Then they had Muhammad Friday. That one was 59-37. And then Mount Vernon got them 75-21 yesterday. They had to go to Mount Vernon yesterday and play a regular start time, like a night, an evening game. That's a little strange for a Saturday, I thought, but they did that. Tough week. I saw the Mattoon game. 25 points is not the way that game went for most of the time.
Yeah, they got outscored 18 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, 21-3, I think it was. Mattoon closed it out nicely. Effingham did some things to get that game real close at halftime. They just, at the end of the day, it's just they didn't have Spencer Fox. They haven't had him all week. And Spencer doesn't score a lot, but he's a capable set of hands, I guess you would say. Like somebody who in the flow of the offense, first of all, can help you get the ball up the floor. But then also just in the flow of the offense, he knows where it needs to go. He knows what needs to happen, and he will take care of it. And good defender and good rebounder too. So while he doesn't put a lot of points on the board, not having him hurts a team that really doesn't need to have anybody gone, right? So it's just been But you know, there were some things in that one that
And I don't think it's breaking news. Whitey Spencer's done for the season.
is that right?
Yeah, I think he's having a procedure.
They
Um,
the talk was that his shoulder was banged up and that he'd been dealing with it for a while and trying to play through
my
it.
understanding was he got it banged up during even it started bothering him during baseball.
Yeah.
Played the football season that way, and then tried to go basketball, and I guess it just got to the point I'd at least like to maybe play late baseball season if possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, he's going to be done for the year, which you hate to see, but that now leaves Effingham without a senior.
Leaves him without a senior, and that's a double-edged thing. I mean, like on one hand, you like to have him out there, right? And you want to keep competing hard because you want to give that to your teammate, right? But
Yeah,
on the
well,
other
and
hand,
he was kind of a coach on the floor. You know, Obi talked about how
yeah.
he pretty well knew everything. He was trying to help direct kids through stuff.
But
So you lose that. That's the most valuable aspect of his loss that's going to hurt
sure,
them.
yeah. And what I am getting at is that the one silver lining, if you want to try and take a positive out of that, is that it's more minutes that somebody else who is going to play them next year
Sure.
can get, right? I mean, it's again, it doesn't make it any easier to win basketball games this year, but
Right. Do they just have one junior?
they got a few.
Oh, they have a couple juniors. That's
They've
right.
got a few juniors, yeah, but it's
Okay.
mostly. I mean, it's mostly sophomores. It's
Right.
mostly sophomores.
Right.
One guy from that game against Mattoon, I wanted to make sure. Hayden Windling played really well in that game. He scored 10 points, but just from seeing him get a little bit of playing time in the Thanksgiving tournament to now, um, he's he was a little squirrely during that Thanksgiving tournament. You know, didn't have his feet under him. I thought like just kind of playing about this close to being out of control, and he looked very good against Mattoon. Did some nice things. You know, just shows you that these guys are all growing up. You know, trial by fire, all that good stuff that we're going to say a lot, but it is happening, right? Like you want to find those things and see those things and focus on those things. You've only won a couple games, but again, especially if you're not going to have Spencer anymore, then I mean this is this is a this is at least a 2-year plan for this group of boys now, you know.
Right. And yeah. So you know, they're going to take a lot of lumps because of your opponents. Here's the deal: they're not going to feel sorry for you.
No, they're yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to go to Mount Vernon and they're just going to say, "Listen, we're going to
Yeah.
do our thing because we can't." And no coach is going to let their team take a game off either. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, you can't because you can't. The problem is that even if you kind of have a good feeling about how a game is going to go, the minute you let that mindset creep in, then it's it's going to lead to other problems. So yeah,
If
they're going to.
you think your team has a shot at winning the game by 50, man, you build that team up in the locker room as much as you can. You've got to go out and be focused. You
Yeah.
cannot, as a coach, let that guard down. And there's times when if you have a really good team and you know there's some opponents, if we'll do X, Y, and Z, we're going to be in control of this game early on. If we do X, Y, and Z, and you have to just emphasize those three things and just stay on people. You
Yep.
know, it goes back to the old Bob Knight story he told about having Michael Jordan in the Olympics gold medal game. They're up like 20 some at the half, and Jordan had like 18 points, 9 rebounds, 4 steals, and 8 assists. And Knight always said, I had to go in the locker room and I had to send a message. This game wasn't over, and by God, I was going to get on Jordan. Said Michael, and he read off the stats, and he says, I haven't seen you set a goddamn screen yet. And Jordan said, Coach, remember how you say I'm so fast? Oh, he says, yeah. He says, you just ain't seeing it. And then Knight started laughing, and it was done, and the dream team went on to win by like, well, that wasn't the dream team, I guess. That was the college. Maybe it was a dream team. That was, I don't know. It would have been the college guys because Knight didn't coach the dream team.
Yeah, nope. Effingham has got T-town coming in this week on Tuesday. We'll have that one on the radio. Charleston comes in on Thursday, and that's their week. So, Charles, those will be a couple of tough ones.
Well,
Charleston
that Charleston game's on Thursday.
yeah, Thursday it
Okay.
is. Charleston and Effingham playing, and Mattoon and Taylorville playing. And Taylorville's still looking for its first win of the year. So,
All that.
tough sledding for a couple of the teams in the Apollo, but then at the top, Mount Zion hasn't lost yet.
Mount Zion's good.
Yeah, Mount Zion's
That
not
comes
going
as
to
a
lose.
shock, but they're good.
Mount Zion's not going to lose very many this year. I don't know.
We did that Mount Zion game last year, if you remember, and Effingham hung around with them for a long time.
They did. Yep, it was. It was a battle. I think that's kind of what what we were just talking about a little bit, right? Like,
yes, Mount Zion did not start that game with any level of intensity, and
reading their own press.
Effingham about made them pay. Effingham played well.
But I think Charleston's going to be tough this year. They're 3-2, but they haven't played much, and they've got some decent players. The Rudabaugh kid that was at St. Anthony, Adam Rudabaugh, he's
right. He's back to being a Trojan.
Yeah, he went from Charleston to St. Anthony, now back to Charleston. I saw he's had a couple of pretty big games for them so far. It's just good to see kid healthy. I don't really know what all went into him not being at St. Anthony anymore, but he was not healthy last year, had that shoulder problem. He tried to play through it and just couldn't. So
yeah, my understanding was it was kind of it was a family issue that it was the family had to move back to be closer to someone, I think. So
okay.
I hate to see those things happen, but yeah. I dealt with him a little, or just my little times of seeing him and stuff. Seemed like a really, really good kid.
Yeah, it's a shame that the injury deal last year just sort of derailed any chance of the season he had.
And a good tennis player, really good tennis.
Yeah. Effingham's girls, they split games this week. They beat Mahomet yesterday. That was actually their first conference win. Beat Mahomet 49-31. Mattoon came in Thursday and beat him 63-52. Mattoon's pretty good, but Effingham started that game really poorly. I know Jeff wasn't. He wasn't enamored.
He was really excited with the Mahomet win, and I think maybe he was equally as disappointed with the Mattoon loss.
Yeah, that game was 15-6 Mattoon after a quarter, and Effingham just never really they couldn't never completely dig out of that. You know what I'm saying? Mattoon did some nice things, but they certainly left some openings, because even when they were winning that game by 9 points after a quarter and limiting Effingham to 6 points, they were fouling like crazy. Okay. They had at least a couple starters with 3 fouls at halftime. And especially in the first quarter, were just sort of indiscriminately grabbing and they were really, like, every time the whistle blew, they were very shocked by it too. Like, they couldn't believe it. They've got a new coach, and he was not protesting too much, but the players were a little incredulous at times, but they got over it. They figured it out. They made the adjustment, and Effingham's the team that ended up having a couple of kids foul out by the time it was all said and done.
That's the old Barney Fife, man. You got to nip that. Nip it, nip it, nip it.
Yeah. But I don't have any really, like, grand takeaways from that game for Effingham, other than, they just, you gotta play all 4 quarters, right? Like,
what are they, like 7-2?
Yeah, they're 8-2 now.
8-2, okay.
1-2 in the conference, because they also had lost to Taylorville the week before. Taylorville's 7-1 overall, 3-0 in the conference, and Mattoon's undefeated. Mattoon hasn't lost yet. Now, I looked at Mattoon's schedule and I thought Effingham's probably the best team that they're they've played so far, and so we'll
Right.
see if that makes a difference. But it really didn't. They had some kids shoot the ball well. They had a girl. I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna look at this score sheet real quick. Her name was Tegan Sewell, and I looked at her when the game started, and I kind of thought, well, she doesn't she didn't look like she was going to be a killer, but she didn't score a lot of points. But man, did she move the basketball well? Just one of those kids that like is kind of an unassuming. They don't necessarily look super athletic, but then like they have a really good idea of what's supposed to happen and what their role is on the team. And I love kids like that. I got a soft spot for it because, like, because I was not much of an athletic person myself, like didn't have a lot of the God-given gifts that some of your better players do. But you see kids work hard and find a role for themselves, and they still get to be on that varsity team and doing something
Right.
positive. And a lot of those points that scored in that game from other kids wouldn't have happened without her. So I just enjoyed that. But Effingham, they got they just got down early, showed a little fight, got back into the game. Let me see here. They outscored Mattoon by 5 points in the second quarter, so they got it kind of close at halftime. But then it was in the third quarter just couldn't do it, and Mattoon hit a lot of free throws down the stretch. I don't know. I don't have anything really smart to say about it. Alyssa Martin scored 20 points in that game, and she can get to the rim. She got to the rim pretty much whenever she wanted to during that game. I just, even with 20 points, I kind of wonder if she didn't need to want to a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they also got they got 13 out of Bella Austin. She's kind of
He's
been
starting to score a little more for
a
him.
little bit more. She's been in double figures a couple of times lately for them. It just one thing that Jeff said during the post game interview, and so this is me parroting the coach. Okay, this is just me repeating what the coach said. So don't get mad at me. He said that they played like 5 individuals instead of a team. That
Yeah.
there were 5 kids that were out there trying to do their own thing instead of trying to accomplish the goals. And he said, a lot of what we worked on in the lead up to this game didn't materialize on the floor. And so, that
It
happened.
happens.
But
Trust me, seen it from the bench, seen it from the stands. It's amazing. Seen it as a parent. You can't function as a team when those things happen.
yeah.
And
So
I had a a fan asked me at breakfast today of a local team, what do you think? I said, well, there's only one ball on the floor.
yeah,
That was my answer.
but again, that was right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I
Yep.
don't know.
Just pretty candid about stuff like that.
Jeff will not sugarcoat it. That's not the
Yeah,
way.
you know where he stands.
But they're still 8-2. Okay,
Yeah,
they're 2 losses in the conference. You're already kind of starting to like. You're gonna have to beat Taylorville the next time you play them. You're gonna have to
but
beat
you play Taylorville at home and you play Mattoon at home.
like those are those are those teams aren't going to lose a bunch of games. They're not going to
No,
finish like 4 conference losses. So
I
you
mean you're
better,
going to have to knock both of them off, and they're going to have to, maybe
yeah.
beat each other, and maybe someone else get them.
But Effingham's got they got to go to Charleston this week. That's actually on Tuesday. Charleston's and I actually saw some footage of Charleston play, and they're better than they were last year, but they're still struggling. They're 2-7. That's a take care of business type of game, right? You should be able to get that one. Then Effingham's at St. Anthony on Thursday, and that's got the makings of a really good one, depending especially on what St.
So
Anthony.
what game are you guys doing on the radio? Doing that game?
Yeah, we are doing that one. We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 4 games this week, so
Man.
yeah, we're busy because T-town and
Yeah,
St.
Matt's
Anthony.
told me he thought that's why he wasn't able to come watch the sausage being made tonight, as he said. So
Well, because St. Anthony and T-town play Monday night too. I didn't say that. I don't think I didn't have that on T-town schedule, but the
Oh,
T-town,
that's tomorrow night.
yeah. So they've got St. Anthony and Newton this week. I
So who
apologize.
are you doing tomorrow night?
St. Anthony and T-town girls tomorrow night.
And then St. Anthony T-Town Boys Tuesday. No,
Effingham T-town boys.
Effingham T-Town Boys Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then again, Effingham and St. Anthony girls Thursday, and then St. Anthony and Diederich boys Friday night.
Okay.
Which ought to be a good one. And we'll get to St. Anthony in a minute. But yeah, I think that St. Anthony and Effingham girls game, that's that's got the makings of a good one. I don't know what Nancy Ruhal's status is. We'll get to her. In fact, that's a good segue, isn't it? Monday night, I was at St. Anthony's girls game with Altamont, and Altamont got a 78-67 win, but Nancy Ruhal, who is the leading scorer for St. Anthony, didn't play. And she also didn't play the following game, 59-52 win over Cowden Herrick Beecher City. They said she's dealing with a concussion. So
yep.
They haven't had her. Now I do know that I've seen the pictures because she happens to apparently date a boy from Neoga. So I did see through the powers of social media that she was feeling well enough to go to Neoga's homecoming dance at least. But doing that and playing basketball are two very different things.
I understand though she wasn't able to go to St. Anthony's, maybe, and left, started feeling nauseous and left, or didn't do. I heard that she was having some issues still. So
yeah,
you hate to see it, and people don't
just
realize the old, in my day, hey, they got their bell rung, they'll be fine. No, that's monitored pretty close today because we kind of understand the lasting effects. And football's not the only sport where you get concussions.
No, absolutely not. One of the best baseball players I played against in high school was he eventually had to stop playing ball because he had a concussion issue. And the thing is, every time it happens, it becomes a little easier for it to happen again. And,
right. And I think soccer is the most concussed sport.
It might be.
Player. Yeah. I think it is.
But St. Anthony played admirably without her. But you're talking about 25 points a game that you're missing. You can't just make that up, right? Like, I mean, that's in Altamont, and I don't want to take anything away from Altamont's win either. Friend of the show, Craig Carr, disappointed, when he got to the gym. I mean, he told us, he's like, man, that's too bad, right? Like to not get the chance to play St. Anthony full strength.
And he that's just not lip service. That's legitimate concern.
Mm-hmm.
You want to face the team's best. You don't want, because you don't want to have people say, "Oh, you only won because."
Sure, yeah. And I think, well, my takeaway from that game was that Altamont, and by the way, kind of burying the lead from that game. Grace Nelson scored 43 points in that game. She needed 25 to get to 2,000 for her career, and she hit that in the third quarter. And
saw that she got a layup.
Yep, so she's got 2,000 for her career. Keep in mind, she missed like more than half of last season with that knee injury, and she had a COVID shortened season as well. So she's there's like, I don't know, what, 25 games, probably something like that.
Probably cost her a shot at 3,000.
Yeah.
Honest. If you really want to do the math.
Yeah, but she's done plenty, and she's going to keep playing after this year. So, it's those kind of milestones are nice, but what she wants is for Altamont to finally, get a regional title. And I think they've got a team that could do it, because what I saw from Altamont was that, yes, of course, Grace Nelson's the best player on the team. Nobody is going to argue that for more than 2 seconds. Okay. But what I did see was that I just felt like, based on, and it's the same group of kids have been playing together at the varsity level for like 3 years now. And everybody else has improved noticeably. they're doing a lot of good things. Are there still things they need to work on? Sure. There was some shot selection issues late in that game. Some things you don't want to do when you're winning. That happened, but they got past it. But you can see that they did a lot of work in the summer in the off season to work on themselves, to improve themselves, and it's not lost on someone who is not around the program every day. I can see it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So, I think both teams full strength. There's nothing saying Altamont doesn't still win. Okay, who knows? Uh, I maybe we'll get the chance to see that, depending on how the NTC tournament shakes out, depending on what regional assignments, how they shake out.
Yeah, I'd say postseason that would only be a sectional matchup,
I think if it goes
probably a
the way it
sectional
has,
final.
if it goes the way it has, yes, they haven't been at the same places.
Which
Yeah.
again, that goes back to our first guest saying somebody's going to make a deep run in almost every sport.
Yeah, but St. Anthony in that loss, they got 28 points from Stacy Vonderhyde. She scored 26 against Cowden a couple of nights later. She has scored at least 23 points in all but 2 games this year. 23 is her average. So she's had some bigger nights, obviously, but 10 points against Mount Carmel is her lowest output. And, she did what she could. I thought that Ava Faber came in and hit some pretty big shots in the first half. And really, St. Anthony, they looked like they were going to get blown out. And they made a nice little comeback in the second half with a freshman by the name of Aubrey Denning. She scored 11 points in the game, most of them in the third quarter. She is a little bitty thing, but she is fearless. It was a lot of fun to watch her play. Her and then Addie Loretzen played a lot of minutes in that game. And then they've got another freshman by the name of Allie Coleman, who they all did some nice things, but Denning just stuck out to me. I wanted to make sure I gave her a mention because, again, she was the smallest kid on the floor, and she was just going at the rim. She wasn't going to be intimidated by the varsity floor. And
again, it's a case like we talked about with Effingham. When you have a player down, those minutes now get dealt up between other kids, and some kids take advantage of those minutes, some kids don't.
Yeah, and that game was also Addie Nuxall's first game back. She'd had a concussion as well, and had missed 5 games. That happened during the Mount Carmel game at their Thanksgiving tournament. So she'd missed 5. Altamont was her first game back. So they were kind of getting her back in the swing of things a little bit.
You mentioned Addie Nuxall. I think her uncle Kirk Hartke maybe played his whole career appearing to have concussion syndrome. He never could remember. He couldn't remember a play.
I got no comment on that. I'm sure he's a wonderful gentleman.
He was an all-state honorable mention player, and he was a good player.
Yeah. I think what I'm seeing, what I wonder about with St. Anthony and Addie Rios also, she scored 18 points against Cowden a couple nights.
Yeah, I saw that. She had a nice point total.
Yeah, she scored double figures last 3 games, and that's kind of, I mean, I'm a broken record, right? But that's kind of another thing that they need to figure out is, who are their weapons besides Ruhal and Vonderhyde? Because, right now, those 2 are awesome, but if you lose one, where are you at? And what if one, not just losing one to injury, but what if a team's just doing a really nice job of taking one of those away? Right. What do you?
And it sounds like girls are trying to fill that role and trying to score in games, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I do. You're going to need to see more, right? You're going to need to see that development continue. Sure. But that's not a controversial or a even particularly insightful thing to say.
Confidence. They just need to start having confidence.
Yeah, I do want to get off on a slight tangent because during that Altamont game, there was, I mean, that was a game between two teams that are going to figure into the National Trail Conference regular season championship, right? Like they're going to be right there. At this point, Altamont and Neoga are both 3-0. St. Anthony's 3-1, but St. Anthony's already played Cowden Herrick and Altamont. Those are two of the tougher teams in the league. Okay.
Right.
So they've the tougher part, some of the tougher parts of their league schedule are already behind them. Anyway, it's a big game. It's an important game. You got Grace Nelson coming in, somebody that I would think that the average basketball fan in the area would want to get a look at if they had an excuse, right? And there just weren't that many people there. There were probably more Altamont fans at the game, and I hate to see that. I want that. St. Anthony has had a really good girls team for the last, I mean, this is like the third year in a row that you really look at that team and think, yeah, this is a regional championship caliber team, right?
Yep.
And
you want that to equate to butts in the seat.
Yeah, and the kids notice it. Okay, the kids and everybody associated with the program notice it, and they would notice it if they got more of a following. And I hope that I hope to see that support grow a little bit for the St. Anthony girls team in particular, because they don't have any trouble getting them to come to the boys games, right? Like it doesn't matter who they're playing. There's a big crowd there. For that girls team, like this is it's been a special group of kids that have come through here, and it's not like you don't want to take that for granted, because it's you never know when you might just hit a little bit of a dry stretch for whatever.
I agree, because having that crowd there, it does help you. I go back, Whitey, my first year. I remember, first year at St. Anthony, yeah, we had good crowds throughout the year and this and that. And we got the sectional semifinal, and we played Lawrenceville, and I was like, we're at Newton, and I'm like, there's a lot of damn people here. I mean, that's the first time I think I was like, wow, and it does make a difference. I think the kids had maybe a little hop in their step that night.
Sure.
But it does when you get that support, and it's unfortunate. I'd love to see that change. I'd love to see those numbers get better. We'll just see. I mean, I know they keep winning. You'd think maybe their following will go beyond friends and family.
The team that's been in a sectional 2 years in a row, I mean,
so they go to state. Are they only gonna, have 150 fans at state?
I hope not. I mean, I
agree with you.
I sincerely hope not, because I think the kids that go out there and work hard deserve more than that. They're representing the school extremely well.
Well, they need to be discovered by the average Joe.
Yeah, and somebody, and I won't say who, just because I don't want anyone to get mad at them, but somebody came up to me at that game Monday night and said, "Hey, I watch you and Wilson." And first of all, I was like, oh, wow, that's.
Wait a minute, time out. Are they related to either one of us?
Not that I know of.
That's a fan there.
But the person said, I really appreciate that you guys are, advocates for girls basketball. And I appreciate him saying that. I never really thought of it that way. It's not like some we're just not going out of our way to talk about the girls, right? Like, I mean, no. Girls deserve to be talked about just as much as the guys do, right? Like it's we've got great programs on both sides of that ledger in the area. And so why wouldn't you spend some time talking about them? And St. Anthony is right up there at the top of that. They have been.
Yep. No, I agree. I hope that gets remedied a little bit.
Yep. But St. Anthony's got a big week, buddy. They go to T-town Monday. And they've got Effingham coming in on Thursday. So, that's a couple of serious tests. I hope, not just for the sake of the team and any success they want to have, but for the kids' sake, that Nancy Ruhal can play those games. I want her to be.
Are they at home for that T-town game, or they go to T-town?
That's at T-town. That's
okay.
At the Effingham
Well,
game is in
maybe
low.
J.H. Griffin Gym will have cooled off a little from.
Yeah, that's a big week for those girls, and it would be nice for them to be at full strength when they do that. And it's I don't have any other information other than that. I'll find out just like everybody else when they may not know yet either. That's the thing about these
Oh,
head
I'm sure. Yeah.
is that you just don't.
Unless she practiced unless she was able to practice over the weekend, then you'll have an idea. I'm sure they have baseline testing, and then they've got to go in and pass some of those tests through the trainers to be released. It's not just like, hey, how you feeling? No. Hey, dad says I can play. No,
it doesn't work that
the IHSA is pretty adamant on how that gets done.
well, and it needs some. I mean,
Been too many abuses.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people who will do what they need to do and not need to be prodded, but there's enough people that need to be saved from themselves that rules and regulations must exist. St. Anthony's boys, they
are starting to get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, right? Getting everybody together is good, because for one reason or another, yeah, they just haven't been able to have all their personnel on the floor at the same time. There's been sometimes it's been health, sometimes it's been other stuff, but the bottom line is that for one reason or another, they didn't have the full team on the floor. Well, they had a couple of conference games this week where, as far as I know, I mean, I know everybody played at Cowden, and they beat CHBC by 35 points. And then they got St. Elmo Brownstown Friday night, beat them by 18. And those are both on the road. And St. Elmo Brownstown, that was their first loss. Okay, they hadn't lost.
Yeah, I had a thing shared with me. 618 Area Sports something, a Twitter handle. I don't even know if I follow them, but somebody shared me a screenshot, and they were touting it as two of their teams to watch.
Yeah.
In a big showdown. The person asked me how good they were, and I said, well, I know they're unbeaten, but this will be a real measuring stick for them.
And I don't know I don't know how it got to 18 points. I haven't seen a box score yet for it.
And I haven't talked to anybody who saw the game, so I don't know either. But I do know that St. Anthony is very capable of scoring points. And defensively, they're fine. It's not like, oh, they just have to outscore people. It's just,
I got a little information for you.
All right.
Thanks to some other local media, i70sports.com. It's a good resource for Vandalia area sports. St. Elmo was ahead at halftime, 21-20.
Okay.
St. Anthony outscored them 22-7 in the third quarter. And
like Coach Rinker maybe made an adjustment or two and maybe got his Irish up a little bit at
halftime. Lit somebody up, lit somebody's up. That's entirely possible.
That may have been you're listening to your friends and your family and reading the internet too much.
St. Anthony now they're 3-0 in the conference. So is Diederich. So those are the two undefeated teams left in the NTC standings. They play each other this week at Diederich. So that'll be a good one. Diederich is 6-1 overall. St. Anthony 6-2 overall. St. Elmo Brownstown 7-1. And then Altamont's only lost once too. They haven't played as many games, but
who's Altamont's conference lost to?
Altamont hasn't lost a conference game. They're lost.
Okay, they haven't lost a conference game.
They lost to Newton. They lost to Newton this week.
Right.
Newton got them by 10, and then they turn around and beat South Central by 24 points.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, just having seen some of these teams now, I mean, Diederich, St. Anthony, Altamont, St. Elmo Brownstown, it's kind of your top, your teams that are figuring into it. But I think that Diederich St. Anthony game is going to be very important. And obviously St. Anthony Altamont is always a big one too.
That's the end of the year.
It is. And I think it's that way on purpose. I mean, Well,
it's been that way since I was coaching.
It works out nicely if nothing else, because right now that's just kind of the two programs that always seem to find their way into that conversation. But I think Diederik's a legitimately good 1A team. They got a lot of options, and they're getting, like, I mean, for instance, they beat Neoga this week. Okay, they probably should beat Neoga, but the way they did it very nicely, right? You get a big output from Caleb Gephardt. He scores 24 points, but you get 19 from Landon Keck. You get 10 from Westendorf, Lucas Westendorf, and Jackson Funderman, 10 apiece. That's what you like to see, right? Like spreading it around. Nope. Nobody.
Is the Keck kid the kid from Sisney?
He's the kid from Sisney. Yep. And let me tell you something. I've seen Sisney. They'd be an awfully good small school team too if he was still there. And they're still a tough customer, but he would obviously help them a lot. So Diederik hasn't lost since their first game of the season. Marshall beat them by 16 points, and then they haven't lost again. They beat Cowden this week too. They beat Sisney. They went to Sisney and beat them a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure that was probably an emotional game. I don't know. I don't think they've probably. St. Anthony's going to be their biggest test so far. I think that's pretty fair to say, but we'll see how they respond to it. That's a big game for St. Anthony. They, like I said, they got a couple of wins. They're 6-2 overall, 3-0 in the National Trail. This week, they got Newton coming in Tuesday, so they got a couple of. Actually, it's a big week for them all the way around because then they go to Charleston Saturday. So they got Newton.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you mention those two games, because it'd be nice to have those two games played before we seed our Christmas tournament because those both. And again, that's part of the reason why we don't release the hey, here's where teams were seeded. We give you the schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and because it's we don't want to seed a team and then all of a sudden one team who's seeded better than the other maybe handily beat someone and then you're like, oh, those dumbasses. So
before we get to said pairings, I think we've covered the St. Anthony, T-town, and Effingham boys and girls. A few things to touch on. North Clay finally got Cody Zimdar's back. They had to play Newton on Friday, and even with Zimdar's, they still weren't able. They still got beat in that one, but it's good for Josh Zink and his boys to get back to full strength. And I think he's got a team they're gonna beat some folks this year. They're a tough customer. Their record's not great right now, but they've played a tough schedule. They're in the Wayne City tournament this week. In fact, they already got a win Saturday in that. They beat Sandoval. The St. Elmo Holiday Tournament is this week too, and you got a lot of local teams playing in that. St. Elmo, obviously, CHBC is in it. Windsor Stew Straws is in it, and Cumberland is in that one. So lots of local interest there. If you want to see a lot of basketball this week, you could go over to St. Elmo and see some pretty competitive small school basketball, I think. Boy, on the NTC girls side of things, I went and saw Neoga play Cumberland Friday night. They had a nice little thing. It was Neoga's homecoming, and so they played a boys and girls game the same night. It was a really nice,
the old mega night like the Apollo used to do.
Exactly. That's what they called it, a mega night. They played a JV boys game, then a varsity girls game, then a varsity boys game, and Neoga won 4 games this week. They beat South Central, they beat Tri-County, they beat Oblong, Palestine, Hudsonville, they beat Cumberland. Not the most challenging part of their schedule, but still to play 4 games in a week is and you could kind of see it. They let Cumberland
W's are W's.
Yeah, they got outplayed by Cumberland, I think it's fair to say. And in fact, Kim Romack said so afterwards. But they still managed to get the win. They're 9-1 this year. So even though I kind of thought Neoga might take a little step back, they've had some kids step up. So they're another team I think they're gonna figure into the national trail. Okay, they're gonna be a part of that conversation. The Neoga Cumberland boys game was fun, but it was a close game. I don't know. It's 40-38. I don't know if you'd call it and Cumberland got the win, by the way. I don't know if you'd call it a great game, like from a technical
Like
standpoint.
sometimes people will say it was a great game, and you want to say no, it was a close game.
I think you could say it was a fun game, even competitive game. Sure, good. Maybe good's the wrong word. I don't know if either coach would even tell you it was good. But Justin Radel over at Cumberland, he's got a son, Cameron, who's a freshman, hit 2 free throws with less than 10 seconds left to
Really?
give them the winning margin, as it turns out. So
Makes the coach feel good inside.
yeah, he was their leading scorer, and he has been several times. So that's I have to imagine that playing your own kid, especially as a freshman at the varsity level, would probably, if it doesn't go well, it's going to get people on your
Right.
backside pretty quick.
It's got to be hard on the kid because trust me, he hears a lot of things after practice that
Yeah, but they're a
he's
young team, and I don't think from what I have seen, it's not like they have a lot of obvious guys that can just make the argument, hey, I should be starting over that kid, right? So that helps a little bit. They're pretty balanced bunch, so there's not too many problems there. But I don't know. That's just kind of what I saw this week. I didn't get to the
all right.
station Christmas party because I thought I might go to the homecoming game. And Neogan is a great atmosphere, good crowd, good times. Yeah. Hey, we've been going a while and we haven't gotten to these pairings yet.
Well, yeah, it's the highlight of our podcast now.
So if you've been
You've been
just
strumming your thumb, going, "When are these guys going to shut up and give us the information?"
Here it
comes.
is. Here it is.
All right. Well, the committee met tonight at Casa Wilson, like we do every year. Almost had a member of the media present, as his quote was, to see how the sausage is made. But that didn't pan out for him. So, to give you an idea, the field has a record of 66-52. We got 8 teams over with a winning record. 8 teams. I don't know if anyone's actually 500. So, we got 8 teams below 500. We've got Oak Lawn is 9-0 at this point. Dixon is 8-0 at this point. And Lincoln Way East is 7-2. And their 2 losses are to Homewood Flossmoor by 5, who's the 5th ranked team in 4A, and Chicago Lindblom by 11, who is probably the 8th ranked team in the state or 10th, and a serious contender to be city champion as well as have the player of the year. So the thing when we see this, it is interesting to say the least, because we don't, the NTC, you could probably seed it right now. You get pretty close because they all play each other. You see this here, we don't. We look at a lot of things, a Dixon's 8-0. Okay, what's their opponent base really like? I will let you know I was on the phone with Aaron Britton this afternoon before we had our meeting, bouncing a couple thoughts off of him. And I value his opinion. Again, friend of the show. We'll have him on again here probably after Christmas. Hey, what do you think? You blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to give you the pairings. A person could probably maybe sort of kind of look at them and figure out seeding. Maybe not.
Okay.
So here I'll just start at T-town. T-town's the top half of the bracket. Effingham's the bottom half. The team on the bottom, is always the home team. That way Effingham wears white all the way through. And then the T-town site will always be the visitors on the last day. So starting at T-town, 3:00, Highland versus Newton. 4:30, Belvedere versus Lincoln Way East. 6:00, it'll be Charleston versus Dixon. And at 7:30, it'll be Pleasant Plains versus T-town. All right. On the Effingham side, 3 o'clock, we'll have Lutheran North versus Seneca. 4:30, Chicago Brooks versus Oak Lawn. 6 o'clock will be Mattoon versus St. Anthony. And 7:30 will be Champaign Centennial versus Effingham. That's our first day. How it goes from that day forward, it's all how it shakes out. Okay. This will be in pretty brackets. Tomorrow, sent to the coaches as soon as I get my bracket back from the printer, which should be fairly early in the morning. And then it goes out to the media. I would imagine Mr. Robinson will have it on the radio in the morning. So very, very excited. It's the field and the tournament. I'll tell you, you want to see some good basketball, you want to come and watch this tournament, because there is some really, really good teams and individuals. And I read this morning from the Chicago Sun-Times, because Michael O'Brien's been their high school writer forever. He has a Super 25 he covers, and then he talks about games. And he had this morning. He said, Lincoln Way East has a very exciting group of young players. The sophomores are fairly well known. C.J. Powell is one, multiple Division I offers. Gosh, I can't remember the other kid's name. And then junior Brent Taylor, who played his first game, and he says is a name to watch. I think he played his first game because he's just coming back from football. You know, they got second place in the 8A playoffs. So they're not even got their whole team rounded into shape yet. Plus, they had a 6'7" kid last year, Hagenmaster, who transferred to Homewood Flossmoor, by the way. So they lost a 6'7", 6'8" kid, and they faced him this week. So that just kind of gives you an idea. There's always talent here, you know, and when we do these pairings, we're not going to have Effingham play Charleston or Effingham play Mattoon right out of the chute. We're not going to have St. Anthony play T-town or St. Anthony play Effingham. You know, those are things we try to curtail. We can't always avoid it. I know one year Newton played Charleston and then the week later they played in the first game of the tournament. I remember talking to Troy the night of the seeding and saying, I don't know how we get around it. You know, and then we also, you know, we have T-town first night playing the last game at home, Effingham playing the last game at home. We like to have St. Anthony play a 6 o'clock game. Sometimes you know, they may be in the top half of a bracket, and then we'll tell the teams, hey, they're not in order of games. That, you know, there's all kinds of fun things we do and have to work around. But committee was very very pleased with the way it turned out. We felt like we had a pretty solid 1 through 3, and then 4 through about 8. Really, you probably could have almost done them any way. Then probably 9, you know, then you had another group that probably were very interchangeable also. So, yeah, it is what it is. We're looking forward to it. And I do want to announce we have picked up, because we have openings for next year. We have 2. Seneca's in on a 1-year deal. Their Christmas tournament they play in, they had a chance to get out, but it's going to be now them hosting next year. They have a new gym that's about done. So they'll be going back to their own Christmas tournament. So they're here on a 1-year gig. And then Highland's going back to Breeze Modern Day. So we just picked up Tolono Unity.
Oh, good.
I don't think we've got the signed contract back, but, you know, we have texting handshakes in place, email handshakes in place. So good team. You saw them the other night. They got a lot of good sophomores, and they travel well. 2 things we really like. Not till 2025. At that point, Central A&M will be back.
Okay.
They've got two really good classes of, I think they're eighth graders and freshmen right now. So this gives them an extra year to season, and then they'll be back. Rob Smith is actually back coaching,
Is
is
he?
my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, good competitive team, and they travel well. So those are two things we like in our tournament. So looks like we will have at least one opening for next year. We kind of got someone in mind who's been trying to get into our tournament for about 3 years. I think we'll fill that spot. Nothing's official yet. We don't have everybody under contract from the group moving forward. We got a couple more waiting to hear back from yet what they're going to do. We'll talk to them also over Christmas, but we're really excited. Next week, I think I will reach out to a few coaches. We'll try to have Coach Columnus and Coach Rhodes from Lincoln Way and Oaklawn for sure. They like to, like to talk basketball, and
Yeah.
they're not bashful about talking about our tournament. And we'll have them on, and we'll pick somebody else up. Maybe Coach Bierman from Newton will be back on. He's usually pretty good about that. So we'll go from there. They'll be guests next week. But looking forward to it. A lot of work. This committee has done a lot of work. The overall committee, not just the seating committee. It takes a lot of work to pull this together. I've actually was reaching out to try to find some host families. We were needing these teams that don't stay in a hotel. We have them stay on the doubleheader day. They go to someone's house for a couple hours because, I don't want them to go sit in Buffalo Wild Wings or a gym for 4 hours because that's just not good. So we fill the house with snacks and drinks and such. And, we've done it here. We've hosted Mount Vernon and I believe Matt Toon. We've hosted here at our house personally. It's hard for us anymore because, I now have Mrs. Wilson has to help with the tournament, and, she has a big role. Morgan obviously isn't here, and we just can't let the cats be enjoyed. So,
Yep. And that's
going to be a good tourney.
And that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after Christmas. So the
28, 29, and 30.
You mentioned Central A&M having a good eighth grade class, and that reminded me of one thing I wanted to touch on before we finish up here.
Yes.
That we had some local schools have some pretty good finishes in the seventh grade and eighth grade girls basketball tournaments. Actually, the eighth grade tournaments aren't over yet, but Sigel St. Michael's had a seventh grade girls team go to they won third place in the 7-1A tournament. T-town's girls, if you can believe it, won the championship in 7-3A.
And here's the head scratcher, because in some years when that happens, a lot of those single girls end up at T-town, and then you're like, oh. So I don't know. I don't know the makeup of that squad.
I have heard. I mean, nothing official, of course, but I've heard that there's a chance that, I don't know, that there might not be as many.
There's one that they go to one of three schools now. It used to be pretty much one, but now it's one of three.
Yeah, it used to. I mean, listen, it used to be if they lived in T-town district, then they go there, and if they lived in Neoga district, they go there. Now, more of them end up at St. Anthony than it used to be. I think Neoga's hopeful that some of those kids will end up there, but it's a lot can happen between now and then. So, and then obviously T-town's girls, that T-town team that won the championship, they're all in the district, and
yep. T-town eighth grade girls actually got beat yesterday, so they are out at the Elite Eight.
Yeah, they made it to the round of 8 and got beat. And that's again 8-3A. In 8-1A, the Sigel St. Michael's girls are going to be playing for a state championship.
Well, good for them.
On the 14th, what would that be? 11, 12, that'd be Thursday night then.
Thursday night.
They are undefeated, and so is the team they're playing against, Washington St. Patrick. So
there you go.
So somebody's going to lose for the first time all year long.
Got to bust up those parochial schools in junior high basketball.
But that's good for Sigel, and Sigel's got it's pretty good 7th grade boys team is my understanding too. I didn't actually get to see them, but I was broadcasting the night that Neoga played them, so I see a lot of those junior high games because my daughter's a cheerleader now, but didn't get to that one. And also, I know we're going long, but I want to shout one more person out. Friend of the show, Lucy Fearday. I meant to mention this last week, but they played. She's at Parkland College now, okay, playing basketball. She comes off the bench for them, but plays a lot of minutes. And at that point, they were undefeated. They played Kankakee, won 87-72, and Lucy scored 21 points in that game.
Very good.
And had 20 rebounds.
Wow.
21 points and 20 rebounds. I just thought we should mention that because it's not every day you hear about someone stacking up 20 boards in the game, but she did all that off the bench. They have lost since then, but I think they've only lost one game all year long. They're a ranked team and they're got a lot of talent on there, but my understanding is she's working very hard there, and it's bearing itself out on the field, or on the court rather. So there you go. Just something I should have mentioned last week, but got caught up talking to Craig and all the other stuff, and there we go. But a lot of big games this week. I'll be broadcasting a lot. Go to the 97.9 website. You can see our sports calendar there. You can see the games we're broadcasting, but a lot of the local schools are playing each other this week on the girls and boys side of things. So there'll be some interesting matchups there, and we'll be talking about that next week.
Sure.
It'll probably be an abbreviated conversation since we're gonna shoot for having those Christmas Classic coaches on there, but we can't not talk about it. So you'll just have to listen for a long time, and it'll be good stuff. It's all good stuff. That's all we do.
I guess.
All right, Mike. I'm tired.
I'm ready. Whitey, during this show, I've been smelling and seeing dinner being prepared, and I'm kind of excited. So, I had my seating meeting and now our show, and I've got a little dinner over there and got a phone call with another committee member in about a half hour.
Well, then
on another matter. And then it's about bedtime for Bonza. Just saying.
Well, we better knock it off then. All right. If you're watching this, man, spread the word. Tell your friends. We got a lot of basketball left to play in the area, and we'd love to have more and more people hearing what we've got to say about it. And give us, you got a little feedback. You want to,
we get comments every once in a while. I like when I see them on Facebook. Occasionally, I get them when I'm in the grocery store or somewhere.
Yeah. Don't be shy though. If you you got something you want to bring to our attention, I can't promise you that it'll turn into anything, but I always like to hear from people, more than just, hey, I listen to you guys and I like you. If there's something that some idea you got or something like that, or just some feedback to what we're saying, we'd love to hear it. So all right, I'm gonna stop talking now. Mike, we'll take it easy. We'll talk next week.
All right, see you, bud.
All right, later.